Have you ever wondered what the most violent weather in the universe looks like? Imagine a hurricane forcing everyone to take cover, packing winds over 75 miles per hour. That sounds terrifying. But what if those gusts were screaming at 400 miles per hour? Could winds of that magnitude actually exist? Absolutely. But to witness a tempest of that scale, we have to leave Earth behind and set our coordinates for Jupiter. Let the cosmic expedition begin. This gas giant is a true behemoth. Picture a celestial sphere so massive you could cram nearly 1,300 Earths inside it. It is also a bubbling cauldron of heat, with the core simmering at a scorching 43,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Sadly, touching down here is physically impossible. Much like trying to stand on a cloud, this planetary titan offers absolutely zero solid ground to land a spacecraft on. We can, however, plunge straight into its dense atmospheric envelope. As we descend, visualize a chaotic ocean of swirling vapor, painting the sky with thick ribbons of brown, yellow, red, and white. Those swirling chemical bands are exactly what give this world its iconic, beautifully striped appearance. But as we sink further down into the abyss toward the gravitational center, the surrounding gases undergo a bizarre transformation. Crushed by unimaginable pressure, the endless oceans of hydrogen and helium shift from invisible vapor into an exotic, sloshing liquid. Deep within this fluid sea lies the planetary core. A true cosmic enigma. Astrophysicists are still debating if this hidden heart is a dense molten puddle or a chunk of solid rock weighing 14 to 18 times as much as our home world. Yet unraveling the core is not why we traveled all this way. We are here to hunt down the Great Red Spot. This majestic beast is a perpetual, violent cyclone tearing through the southern hemisphere of the sprawling gas giant. Like a towering mountain of furious air, its peak reaches over 5 miles higher than the surrounding cloud decks. To put its sheer scale in perspective, this single vortex is 1.3 times wider than the entire planet Earth. Back in 2017, the Juno space probe swept past this crimson leviathan to harvest vital data. The findings revealed that the roots of this monstrous cyclone plunge over 200 miles deep into the swirling planetary abyss. Imagine an atmospheric trench 30 to 100 times deeper than the deepest oceans of our blue marble. Yet even those mind-bending numbers might be conservative estimates, meaning the vortex could be digging much, much further down. Interestingly, the belly of this crimson beast is significantly frostier than the surrounding skies. Keep in mind, the upper cloud decks of this world are already freezing, hovering around a bitter negative 234 degrees Fahrenheit. Conversely, diving down toward the planetary center means braving an intense, escalating inferno. But here is where the science gets truly fascinating. The most extreme heat ever measured on this massive world was actually found high up in the atmosphere, hovering directly over the cyclone. Up there, the thermometer violently spiked to 2,400 degrees. To put that into perspective, that is hotter than glowing liquid magma erupting from a terrestrial volcano. Researchers suspect that the aggressive churning generated by this atmospheric titan could be blasting out acoustic and gravitational waves, effectively cooking the space right above it. Despite this external roasting, the cyclone's own internal structure remains warmer at its base than at its peak. Human eyes and telescopes have tracked this raging crimson whirlpool for over 150 years. For a while, planetary scientists hypothesized that the beast was losing steam, predicting it would eventually shrink and vanish completely. However, the universe loves to prove us wrong. After meticulously crunching decades of optical data captured by the legendary Hubble Space Telescope, experts were left absolutely stunned. Instead of dying out, the ferocious gales whipping around the outer edges of the vortex were actually accelerating. Now, this acceleration is subtle, shifting by roughly 1.5 miles per hour over the course of a single Earth year. It sounds incredibly insignificant, yet in planetary dynamics, even the smallest fraction of an increase carries massive implications. The outer rim of this maelstrom is currently blasting at an astonishing 400 miles per hour, making our most destructive tornadoes look like gentle breezes. Oddly enough, taking a hypothetical vacation straight into the eye of this crimson beast would be quite anticlimactic. In the very heart of the storm, the chaotic gales calm down to a surprisingly lazy crawl. Unlocking the mechanics of this giant anticyclone has been a monumental headache for the scientific community. The biggest missing piece of the puzzle is figuring out exactly what feeds this eternal tempest. Could the answer lie in the fundamental anatomy of the world itself? Lacking any solid terrestrial continents, there is absolutely zero topographical friction to drag the swirling winds down and kill the momentum. Furthermore, the scorching vapors blanketing the globe are locked in an endless chaotic dance of rising heat and plunging cold. It is very similar to how weather systems operate on our own pale blue dot, where colliding thermal currents spin up powerful hurricanes. Theorists propose that long ago, a massive pileup of smaller distinct weather systems violently crashed into each other, fusing to birth this singular red giant. Today, it essentially survives like a cosmic engine, constantly slurping up icy vapor from the depths and sucking down boiling air from the canopy above. To make matters worse, the behemoth seems to be a cannibal, eagerly swallowing up any passing miniature cyclones, which only adds fuel to its terrifying spinning engine. Sadly, our visual access is blocked by an impenetrable veil of dense smog, hiding whatever lurks in the lower depths. For generations, academic minds have wildly guessed what sort of monster might be anchoring this crimson vortex from below. Could it be a colossal erupting volcano? Highly doubtful, since this entire globe is just a soup of compressed fluids and vapors. There is simply no solid rocky crust capable of fracturing to release any subterranean magma. Beyond its origin, there is also the fascinating riddle of its iconic shifting pigment, which routinely morphs from a ghostly white and soft pink to a blazing fiery brick red. A leading hypothesis suggests the color factory operates deep in the trenches of the atmospheric crush. Down there, an invisible transparent blanket of chemical compounds gets violently cooked by ultraviolet radiation beaming in from the solar system's central star. This photochemical sunburn is likely what paints the cyclone its signature rusty hue, though it remains an unproven cosmic hunch. Ultimately, space holds on to its secrets tightly. But this striped giant is not the sole proud owner of a world-eating tempest. A neighboring ringed planet hosts an equally terrifying phenomenon, easily large enough to swallow Earth whole. Astronomers creatively named it the Great White Spot. This magnificent atmospheric disruption develops a towering snowy tail of vapor that violently wraps its way around the entire globe. Operating on a bizarrely precise schedule, this snowy eruption bursts to life roughly every 30 years. It begins as a concentrated, brilliant dot before aggressively elongating, stretching like a cosmic rubber band across the atmosphere. Decades of observation have unmasked this pale blemish as a deeply interconnected apocalyptic network of thunderclouds. In the upper echelons of this system, colossal electrical discharges detonate more than 10 times every single second. The ultimate question surrounding this pale leviathan is where it draws its devastating power. A fraction of the astrophysics community points to solar radiation as the primary battery, while an opposing camp insists that the unique geometry of the cloud formations mathematically demands a hidden, internal geothermal furnace pumping energy upward. Regardless of the spark that ignites them, these catastrophic, planet-devouring cyclones are just a tiny fraction of the cosmic puzzles keeping researchers awake at night. Now, let us drift to the frozen outer edges of our stellar neighborhood to visit Pluto, the reigning king of the dwarf planets, and marvel at its alien sky. Despite its tiny size, its gaseous shield stretches staggeringly high into the void, featuring over 20 distinct, intensely compacted layers of sub-zero haze. Speaking of unexpected skies, even our familiar crater-pocked lunar companion clings to a frail, ghost-like atmospheric shell known as an exosphere. Composed of trace amounts of helium, neon, and argon, this invisible bubble is 10 trillion times thinner than the air we breathe right now. But as we navigate these celestial wonders, be sure to keep a vigilant eye out for the universe's ultimate apex predators, the black holes. Brace yourself. These are the absolute extremes of reality. Terrifying cosmic sinkholes where gravity rules supreme, permanently trapping even the fastest photons of light. Yet remarkably, under the right conditions, these light-devouring monsters can violently erupt, spewing matter into the void exactly like an unimaginable, galactic-scale volcano. Have you ever wondered what happens when the universe loses its temper? Well, supermassive black holes occasionally throw massive cosmic tantrums, kind of like my own mood swings. Only, rather than spitting out molten rock, these astronomical beasts unleash mind-boggling blasts of power, punching colossal voids straight through the cosmic gas clouds around them. In fact, astronomers recently stumbled upon a galactic crater of unprecedented scale. Using cutting-edge X-ray and radio observatories, researchers spotted the aftermath of an ancient, epic outburst from a stellar heavyweight. This phenomenal eruption took place inside a distant cluster of galaxies, roughly 390 million light-years from our home. To put that in perspective, you could cram 15 entire Milky Way galaxies into the cavity it carved out. Honestly, my brain short-circuits just trying to picture that kind of scale. So if you are ever cruising through the cosmos, you might want to double-check the forecast before touching down on uncharted worlds. Make a wrong turn, and you could find yourself stranded on exoplanet K2-141b. Lurking way beyond our own solar neighborhood, this distant sphere actually mimics Earth in a weird, twisted way. It features sprawling liquid seas that heat up, drift into the sky as clouds, and gather moisture before dumping precipitation right back onto the ground. Except here, the forecast calls for heavy showers of solid rock. The entire crust of this alien world is swamped beneath boiling oceans of magma plunging dozens of miles down. When the sun is out, surface temperatures on this scorching globe skyrocket to a blistering 5,000 degrees. That is violently hot enough to literally boil the molten oceans straight into vapor. From there, ferocious supersonic gales, blasting at an astonishing 1 mile per second, sweep those mineral clouds over to the dark side of the planet. Once the air chills, that floating magma condenses and plummets from the sky as a terrifying deluge of pebbles and stones. Yeah, definitely not making it onto my travel itinerary. It is just a bit too toasty for my liking, so I will take a hard pass on that one. Closer to home, the gas giant Jupiter boasts 79 confirmed satellites, but the true superstars are its 4 massive Galilean companions. They earned their title from the legendary astronomer Galileo Galilei, who first spotted them way back in the 17th century. While they share a family resemblance, each of these cosmic siblings has a radically unique personality. Take Europa, for instance. It is the most petite of the bunch, measuring just 1,860 miles across. This little icy sphere races around its host planet once every 3.5 days, and humanity first caught a good glimpse of its frozen face during the 1970s. Picture a global ice rink, because its entire exterior is a shell of frozen water. Slicing across this desolate landscape are massive glowing cracks, roughly a mile in width, ripping outward for thousands of miles. Astronomers strongly suspect these deep scars are the result of an intense gravitational tug-of-war, literally stretching the outer shell over a deeply hidden, enigmatic underground sea. Back in 2012, researchers struck gold when they spotted majestic geysers of water vapor blasting 125 miles into space near the southern pole. These cosmic fountains are a gift, allowing us to sample the hidden depths without ever needing to touch down. Beneath a frozen barricade, roughly 10 to 15 miles thick, experts theorize there is a breathtaking, sprawling body of liquid water. And get this, that pitch-black abyss could plunge anywhere from 40 to 100 miles down. Despite being barely a fourth of the size of our own blue marble, this tiny satellite somehow hoards double the volume of water found in every single ocean on Earth combined. Because there is liquid water, this subterranean realm is a prime hunting ground in our search for extraterrestrial biology. The prevailing theory suggests the whole icy exterior acts like a free-floating raft, slipping and sliding over the liquid layer below. It takes a staggering 12,000 years for that frozen shell to complete one sluggish lap around the moon's core. If you look closely at the vintage snapshots captured by the Galileo probe, you will notice distinct, rusty-colored freckles dotting the landscape. Measuring roughly 6 miles in diameter, these blemishes are actually chemical bruises created when buoyant, warm slush bubbled upward, either violently fracturing the frozen shield or warping it from underneath. Much of the landscape here is dominated by what astrophysicists affectionately dub chaos terrain. Imagine jagged, intensely scrambled ridges of ice sitting perfectly inside vast expanses of completely flat, pristine plains. Along its midsection, the world bristles with menacing blades of frozen water known as penitentes, towering up to 50 feet into the dark sky. We actually see these bizarre formations right here on our home planet, mostly up in arid mountain ranges, though they are tiny compared to the colossal daggers found on this Jovian moon. By comparison, Earth's own lunar companion is scarred by over 5,000 massive craters stretching beyond 15 miles wide. Yet Europa is practically unblemished, boasting a youthful complexion that implies its crust is barely 50 million years old. This suggests the icy shell operates like a massive geologic conveyor belt, constantly recycling and paving over its own history. As a result of this endless resurfacing, it holds the title as one of the sleekest, most polished celestial bodies in our entire cosmic neighborhood. Thanks to that mirror-like finish, it shines 5 times more brilliantly than the silvery orb in our night sky. However, its host planet constantly bombards it with lethal levels of atomic energy, a radioactive storm so fierce a human would not survive a single afternoon. Sitting roughly 5 times deeper into the solar system than humanity's home, this remote outpost is practically starved of solar warmth. Consequently, it is locked in a deep freeze, with standard temperatures hovering around -250 degrees Fahrenheit near the middle and plunging to a brutal -360 degrees near the poles. Roughly 40 years into the past, the legendary Voyager 1 probe buzzed past another Jovian companion, Io, revealing it as the undisputed heavyweight champion of extraterrestrial volcanism. Orbiting as the 5th moon from the giant, it is a 4.5 billion-year-old relic, born right alongside the mighty planet. Dimensionally speaking, it is almost a twin to our own lunar satellite, sharing an incredibly comparable mass, physical weight, and gravitational pull. While a majority of cosmic satellites are constructed from basic silicates and frozen slush, this violent sphere is forged from heavy iron and molten rock. If you could stand on its unstable ground, you would witness some absolutely breathtaking atmospheric light shows. Thanks to its endless waltz through the planet's intense magnetic field, these alien auroras constantly flicker and shift in intensity, painting the sky with a permanent glowing halo. Hugging its parent planet tightly, it zips along barely 260,000 miles above those swirling atmospheric storms. Imagine looking up from that fiery surface. The view of the gas giant would be absolutely paralyzing. The striped behemoth would dominate the heavens, appearing nearly 40 times more massive than the full moon does from Earth. It would be an astronomer's ultimate paradise. Furthermore, this energetic little rock sprints through a full orbit in merely 42.5 hours, whereas Earth's companion takes nearly 30 days. Thanks to extreme gravitational stresses, the actual rock of the crust bulges outward by an astonishing 330 feet. Think about how the moon tugs at Earth's oceans to create high tide, but dial that intensity way past 11. Instead of pulling on water, the overwhelming gravity bends solid stone, causing the physical terrain to heave and sigh. It is like riding a geological elevator that routinely vaults you up and down the equivalent of a 30-story skyscraper. Caught in a relentless, agonizing tug-of-war between its massive host and neighboring satellites, the entire moon flexes. As a result, the shifting bedrock creates ripples 5 times larger than the most extreme tsunamis recorded on our blue marble. This non-stop internal friction acts like a cosmic microwave, superheating the core until the subterranean rock liquefies, boils, and violently searches for an exit wound. When the pressure finally reaches a breaking point, the crust shatters, birthing a furious new volcanic vent. Consequently, this fiery little orb takes the crown as the single most geologically explosive world orbiting our sun. It is peppered with upwards of 400 active vents, and at any given moment, 150 of them are actively spewing chaos. A few of these monsters launch geysers of blazing gas, a jaw-dropping 200 miles out into the void of space. Taking a casual stroll across the landscape would be a literal nightmare, as you would be dodging sprawling deltas of molten magma, navigating furious rivers of liquid fire, skirting past lakes of lava, and watching colossal, unstable mountains crumble into dust. Shifting our gaze outward, we find Ganymede, the absolute giant of all known moons, which ironically guards the most massive subterranean water reserve ever discovered. Despite being incredibly lightweight, it puffs out 26% larger than the actual planet Mercury. This colossal sphere is encased in a tremendously thick armor of frozen water, sinking at least 90 miles straight down. Hidden beneath that frosty shell is what astronomers suspect to be an unimaginably vast ocean of liquid water. Spanning a breathtaking 60 miles in depth, this dark abyss dwarfs Earth's Mariana Trench by a factor of 10. Have you ever imagined a moon capped with sparkling frost? When the Voyager mission swept past Ganymede, it spotted exactly that at its poles. This massive moon is a 50-50 split of solid stone and liquid water, sprinkled with trace metals and frozen chunks. Its wispy envelope of air lacks the oxygen we breathe, making it highly unlikely that anything is swimming around in that dark abyss. Sure, our home planet proves that bizarre organisms can thrive in pitch-black depths far from the sun's reach. However, Ganymede's hidden sea plunges so incredibly deep, and the crushing weight above is so intense that the water at the very bottom is likely squeezed right back into solid ice. Down in the darkest trenches of Earth's oceans, life clings to hydrothermal chimneys spewing mineral-rich heat. But because a massive wall of ice probably blocks Ganymede's sea from touching its warm heart, that life-giving spark just isn't there. What we do have is a massive, briny ocean stacked like a layer cake with sheets of ice in between. If organisms were to miraculously exist anywhere here, they would likely hide exactly where the stony center brushes up against that deepest frozen crust. Dig beneath that colossal shell of slush and water, and you will find the only moon in our entire cosmic neighborhood that generates its own magnetic shield. This invisible force field exists solely because its core is sloshing around in a molten state. It takes this giant about 7 days to complete a single lap around Jupiter. The path it travels is stretched out like a rubber band, bringing it dangerously close to its host planet at times. Along with its neighbors, Io and Europa, they are locked in a continuous gravitational tug-of-war. For every single lap Ganymede completes, Europa finishes too, and Io races around a dizzying 4 times. Looking at its face, 1/3 is covered in mysterious, shadowy patches, while the remaining 2/3 are surprisingly bright. Those dim zones represent the oldest crust, heavily scarred by ancient cosmic bombardments. The brighter sections are completely different, carved with sprawling wrinkles and trenches that tower 2,300 feet into the sky and stretch for thousands of miles. Then there is Callisto, our solar system's 3rd largest satellite, measuring an impressive 3,000 miles right across. Taking 17 of our days to slowly wander around Jupiter, it possesses a barely there veil of an atmosphere. Its face is brutally battered by space rocks, leaving a frozen outer shell that has sat unchanged for over 4 billion years. Think about an active, breathing world like ours. Rushing rivers, erupting mountains, shifting continents, wild storms, and even human cities constantly wipe the slate clean, burying the scars of ancient meteor strikes. Callisto never had that luxury. Researchers suspect it was once a vast aquatic globe that slowly turned solid. Occasional cosmic debris would smash into it, but it largely sat suspended in a peaceful, frozen slumber. Despite this quiet history, it wears some absolutely breathtaking impact scars. Most notably, Valhalla. the grandest ringed basin we have ever found in our cosmic backyard. Stretching an unbelievable 2,500 miles across, the colossal dents on Callisto ripple outward with far more concentric circles than craters found anywhere else. The giant rock that slammed into it must have shattered the brittle outer crust, allowing ancient water to flood outward. Hidden just beneath that frozen shell today might lie a slushy layer of warm ice or a briny sea. When the Galileo spacecraft flew by, it noticed that Jupiter's powerful magnetic currents were completely blocked from passing through this satellite, hinting at a conductive liquid barrier roughly 6 miles deep. This incredibly thick armor makes Callisto exceptionally stubborn to study. While neighboring worlds like Europa conveniently spray ocean samples out into space through icy geysers, unlocking the secrets of Callisto's history would require us to literally drill through miles of solid ice. Yet if humanity ever needs a pit stop to venture deeper into the dark cosmos, this cratered sphere is pure real estate gold because it sits comfortably outside Jupiter's deadly radiation belts, offering a relatively peaceful haven compared to the chaotic inner satellites. So, how well do you actually know the neighborhood we live in? Picture a world so unfathomably huge that you could smash every other planet together, and this single beast would still weigh twice as much. It is painted with mesmerizing, swirling ribbons, which are really just vicious freezing storms of water and ammonia tearing through a vast ocean of hydrogen and helium gas. Need another hint? Imagine a crimson hurricane so monstrous it could swallow Earth whole, churning violently without stopping for centuries. You guessed it, we are talking about Jupiter. But here is a mystery that keeps astronomers up at night. Is this colossal gas giant our ultimate cosmic protector, or our biggest threat? Right now, NASA's Juno spacecraft is bravely diving through its turbulent skies, beaming back mind-bending discoveries. To put its sheer size into perspective, you could line up 11 Earths end to end just to span its waistline. Think of it this way. If our entire world was shrunk down to a tiny grape, Jupiter would be a massive basketball sitting right next to it, roaming comfortably as the fifth resident from the blazing sun. It patrols the dark void roughly 484 million miles away. Now, as self-centered humans, we love to think our vibrant blue marble is the center of the story. But the truth is, we are just guests in Jupiter's domain. In fact, this single giant hoards 75% of all planetary material in our star system, packing 318 times the bulk of Earth. It acts as the ultimate cosmic boss. Whatever it demands, it gets. If it feels like hurling giant rocks across the void, consider it done. Wielding its gravitational muscles, it aggressively tugs at the asteroid belt, forever preventing those fragmented stones from fusing together into anything bigger than Ceres, the lone dwarf world trapped in our inner solar ring. It is a ravenous beast, eagerly swallowing wandering comets and rogue asteroids. Yet, when it gets bored, it aggressively slingshots captured debris on wild, unpredictable paths through the dark. Over its 4.5 billion years of existence, this swirling titan has undoubtedly sparked unimaginable cosmic chaos. Yet, here is where the story takes a fascinating turn. A handful of researchers argue that humanity, and Earth itself, might only exist today because of Jupiter's invisible shield. It seems counterintuitive, but acting like a gigantic vacuum cleaner, it sweeps up apocalyptic rocks before they ever reach us. However, a rival camp of astronomers paints a totally different picture, calling Jupiter a reckless vandal that purposefully nudges harmless, distant comets and sends them spiraling into terrifying new trajectories. The real danger here lies with long-period comets, colossal mountains of dirty ice born in the freezing depths of the Oort cloud, a shadowy realm sitting way out past Pluto. Occasionally, these frozen giants are shoved inward, hurtling like runaway freight trains right past our sun. In fact, many experts believe that Earth's most catastrophic wipeout was triggered by one of these rogue wanderers. As they plunge through the darkness, they inevitably run right into Jupiter's massive gravitational web. The colossal planet tosses them around like toys, devouring a few of them like bite-sized cosmic snacks. But here is the ultimate puzzle. Is Jupiter swatting these lethal missiles away to save us? Or is its meddling actually redirecting stray rocks right into Earth's crosshairs? The truth is still a mystery. Because it holds such a massive reservoir of hydrogen and helium, scientists frequently dub this giant a star that simply forgot to ignite. Have you ever wondered why Jupiter, packed with the exact same ingredients that make up the stars, does not light up the night sky? It simply lacks the sheer bulk required to ignite a nuclear fusion fire in its belly, which is the ultimate engine powering every star. Stellar engines work by crushing hydrogen atoms together until they morph into helium, a violent cosmic forge that blasts out immense amounts of light and blistering heat. For our neighborhood gas giant to ignite and become a stellar body, it would need to pack on 75 times its current weight. But here is a wild cosmic paradox. If you fed this beast more mass, it would actually shrink. The extra material would squeeze the planet, dramatically increasing its density and forcing it to collapse inward under its own gravity. In fact, astrophysicists confidently calculate that even if you multiplied its weight by 4, the planet's waistline would not expand an inch. Orbiting this behemoth is a bustling family of anywhere from 80 to 95 moons, though the undisputed celebrity of the group is Europa. Picture a silent, utterly frozen wasteland floating in the dark. This incredibly ancient relic has been drifting around for roughly 4.5 billion years, shivering under a massive icy shell far away from the sun's comforting warmth. Slightly more petite than our own moon, yet chunkier than Pluto, Europa claims the title of Jupiter's 6th satellite and stands out as a true heavyweight among the solar system's moons. But the most mind-blowing twist about this distant ice ball? It might just be harboring alien life. Space experts widely rank Europa as one of the absolute best spots in our cosmic neighborhood to hunt for biological organisms. Why? Because concealed within it lies a colossal, salty ocean plunging anywhere from 40 to 100 meters deep. Sure, this aquatic paradise is locked away beneath a brutal frozen crust estimated at 10 to 20 meters thick, yet it remains incredibly hospitable to potential life. In fact, stargazers suggest that spectacular geysers burst through the fractured icy armor, violently blasting the hidden ocean's secrets straight into the void of space. For decades, the scientific community has been completely stumped by Jupiter's bizarre invisible glowing light shows, its X-ray auroras. What on earth triggers them? Well, grab your telescopes, because a 4-decade-old puzzle finally has an answer. These absolutely stunning, high-energy light displays are actually sparked by electrified atomic fragments known as ions. When these tiny cosmic bullets slam into the gas giant's thick atmosphere, the sky ignites. The tricky part, though, was figuring out how these charged fragments managed to dive into the atmosphere to begin with. Fast forward to today, and researchers have literally caught these particles hanging 10, surfing the invisible waves of Jupiter's magnetic field straight down into the clouds. We owe this massive breakthrough to the incredible instruments aboard NASA's Juno probe and the European Space Agency's XMM Newton Observatory floating right up in Earth's orbit. To put this in perspective, our hometown auroras strictly hover around the magnetic poles, locked in a ring between 65 and 80 degrees latitude. Venture past that 80-degree mark, and the northern lights completely vanish. Jupiter's light shows, however, refuse to play by our planetary rules. They throb with chaotic energy far beyond the primary auroral ring, occasionally putting on entirely mismatched performances at the top and bottom of the planet. Astrophysicists realized this bizarre pulsing rhythm is driven by violent tremors rippling through the planet's magnetic bubble. Imagine this spinning juggernaut furiously dragging its vast magnetic tail behind it as it whirls. Whenever this invisible shield gets slammed by supersonic gusts of solar wind, it violently scrunches up. That intense compression acts like a cosmic microwave, superheating the trapped atomic passengers and sending them careening down the invisible magnetic highways to spark those jaw-dropping skies. But shifting gears from the heavens to the clouds, let us talk about the planet's ultimate crown jewel, the Great Red Spot. This swirling titan is a hellish hurricane tearing through the lower half of the gas giant, boasting cloud peaks that pierce the sky over 5 meters higher than the surrounding weather systems. To wrap your head around its scale, you could drop our entire world into this tempest twice over. The outer bands whip around at a terrifying 270 to 420 miles per hour, easily blowing our most destructive tornadoes out of the water. The fiery atmospheric vapors here are locked in a chaotic dance of bubbling up, sinking down, and spinning wildly. Much like our earthly weather, whenever these clashing temperature extremes collide and blend, they spawn monstrous, rotating vortexes. The prevailing scientific theory suggests that ages ago, a cluster of these colossal cyclones may have crashed into each other, birthing the legendary Crimson Hurricane we see today. It sustains its terrifying momentum by acting like a vacuum, relentlessly sucking up freezing vapors from the depths and scorching fumes from the upper atmosphere. On top of that, this cannibalistic beast feasts on smaller neighboring cyclones, gobbling them up to fuel its own fury. Yet, the exact reason behind its iconic rusty paint job remains a heated debate. Its complexion constantly shifts, transforming from a ghostly white and soft pink to a blazing orange and deep crimson. Many researchers suspect the secret ingredient is hiding deep beneath the storm's churning canopy. They propose that invisible blankets of ammonium hydrosulfide could be getting cooked by relentless cosmic rays and intense ultraviolet sunshine. This harsh chemical baking process somehow tints Cyclone with its signature ruby hue, though we still lack hard proof. Stargazers have been obsessively tracking this swirling bruise since the 1830s. However, early astronomers actually caught the very first glimpse of it way back in 1665, labeling it the permanent mark. If that is true, this tempest has been roaring for nearly 400 years straight. Curiously though, ever since the dawn of the 21st century, this unstoppable force has been losing weight. By 2019, we watched in awe as its outer boundaries started unraveling, shedding fragments into the abyss. Should this cosmic unraveling persist, projections show that by 2040, this iconic oval could squish into a perfect circle, or even fizzle out entirely, erased from the sky. Now, consider this crazy thought experiment. What if we struck a colossal match right inside the biggest pocket of volatile gas in our cosmic neighborhood? After all, Jupiter's atmosphere is loaded with methane, a chemical notorious for burning violently. Throw in an ocean of metallic hydrogen, a substance that morphs into highly combustible rocket fuel under the planet's crushing atmospheric weight, and you have a recipe for destruction. Yet if you sparked a flame there, you would get absolutely zilch. No earth-shattering booms, no fireworks. Why is this giant gas tank fireproof? And could we actually bypass the rules if we were dead set on blowing the planet to smithereens? To understand this, you need to respect the sheer scale of our local cosmic titan. It stretches an unbelievable 11 times wider than our home. Picture Earth as a tiny coin sitting next to a massive basketball, cruising along as the fifth rock from the sun, just past the red sands of Mars. It weighs in at over 300 times the mass of our world. Heck, you could mash every other planet together, double that pile, and this giant would still outweigh them. Thanks to that astronomical gravitational pull, it acts like a cosmic vacuum for passing space rocks, collecting a staggering 95 documented moons. The absolute rock stars of this orbital family are the Galilean Quartet, Io, Europa, Ganymede, and Callisto, which were first spotted by the legendary Galileo Galilei back in 1610. And surprise, this giant sports rings too. They are nowhere near as glamorous as Saturn's dazzling icy halos, instead consisting of ghostly pulverized rock and cosmic dust. Because they lack those shimmering ice crystals, they barely bounce any sunlight back, rendering them completely invisible to backyard stargazers. Moreover, this whirlwind completes a full rotation faster than anything else nearby, finishing a day in a blistering 10 hours. Even though a single lap around the sun drags on for 12 Earth years. But the most mind-bending fact to grasp is that there is no solid ground to stand on whatsoever. Much like its ringed neighbor, it belongs to the illustrious club of gas giants, immense spheres woven almost entirely out of vapor. They are constructed primarily from hydrogen and helium, proving once again that they share the exact same primordial DNA as the shimmering stars above.
Have you ever stared up at the night sky and wondered what you would actually hit if you dove straight into a gas giant?
While Jupiter and Saturn might seem like endless balloons of empty vapor, they are actually hiding some incredibly dense, heavy ingredients. The crushing weight deep inside these behemoths is so extreme that it literally breaks the laws of chemistry, transforming their outer shells into a densely packed ocean of squeezed hydrogen molecules. Plunge even further into the abyss, and that gas miraculously morphs into a swirling sea of liquid metallic hydrogen, churning around what we suspect is a solid, rock-hard heart buried at the very center.
When we gaze up through our telescopes, we are merely scratching the surface,
seeing nothing but atmospheric cloud decks painted with Jupiter's iconic, mesmerizing bands and swirling tapestries.
Up close, these breathtaking masterpieces are actually freezing fogs of water and ammonia suspended in helium and hydrogen,
while that legendary Great Red Spot is nothing short of a monstrous hurricane that has been tearing across the sky for centuries.
Picture a tempest so unbelievably gargantuan that it could swallow our entire home planet whole, whipping around at speeds double that of the most violent twisters we have ever recorded on Earth.
This brings us to a fascinating thought experiment. Could you strike a match out there? Assuming you could somehow hover midair without a solid floor beneath your boots and completely ignore the bone-crushing gravity and apocalyptic winds, you would still face a fatal flaw. Combustion demands oxygen, and the Jovian atmosphere is completely devoid of it, meaning a spark simply cannot ignite. But what the sheer, mind-boggling scale of this world means you would require a completely absurd volume of oxygen, likely exceeding the reserves of our entire cosmic neighborhood. You have probably also been told that this gas giant acts as our cosmic bodyguard. Its immense gravitational pull works like a giant vacuum cleaner, sucking in rogue space rocks destined for our home, taking a beating of anywhere from 30 to 100 violent impacts every single year. Yet, surprisingly, those incoming space rocks never trigger fiery detonations upon entry, not even during the most catastrophic collisions ever witnessed. The ultimate test came in 1994 with the infamous comet Shoemaker-Levy 9. After shattering into massive chunks, some stretching half a mile wide in '92, it wandered dangerously close to the giant in '94. The resulting cosmic fireworks were absolutely breathtaking to behold, as 21 enormous fragments relentlessly bombarded the Jovian atmosphere at blistering velocities over a grueling 6-day period. Temperatures skyrocketed to a blinding 53,000 degrees Fahrenheit, sending out shock waves that mimicked skipping stones across a cosmic pond and launching gargantuan mushroom clouds into the sky. These towering plumes blasted nearly 1,900 meters past the upper cloud decks, leaving massive bruised scars of cosmic rubble that lingered for months before finally being swept away by the howling winds. This spectacular celestial pileup proved incredibly educational, turning those bruised debris clouds into massive wind socks that unveiled the hidden, high-altitude currents racing through the upper stratosphere. Meanwhile, bizarre fluctuations in the polar light shows gave astronomers a rare peek into the giant's magnetic shield, simultaneously unlocking deep secrets about its chemical makeup. Witnessing such raw destruction instantly motivated space agencies to start seriously tracking potential doomsday rocks headed for our own backyard, pushing humanity to drastically expand our understanding of how wandering celestial bodies behave when they violently collide. Then we have Saturn, the crown jewel positioned 6th from our star and taking the silver medal for size. Much like its bigger sibling, it is far more complex than just a balloon of empty gas. While hydrogen and helium definitely dominate its makeup, diving to the very core reveals a tightly packed vault of heavy metals, featuring nickel and iron, cocooned inside a stony shell. Fascinatingly, this ringed wonder is surprisingly airy, tipping the cosmic scales at a mere 95 Earth masses, while dressing itself in stunning ribbons of gold, crimson, ivory, emerald, and blush. It is like the universe's ultimate artist went wild with the brush, painting atmospheric jet streams that scream by at a mind-bending 1,090 miles per hour, making our most violent hurricanes look like a gentle breeze.
These supersonic gales wrap the globe in vibrant, sweeping sashes, culminating in the most breathtaking halo in the cosmos. But wait, that iconic icy disk is actually a massive cosmic graveyard, built entirely from pulverized comets, smashed asteroids, and obliterated moons, featuring massive empty trenches like the Cassini division, carving through the glittering debris. So where do the distant twins, Uranus and Neptune, fit into this story? For decades, astronomers wrongly assumed these colossal worlds were exact replicas of our two nearest gaseous behemoths. Eventually, science realized they reign over an entirely different domain as ice giants. Though you should not picture massive frozen glaciers tumbling through the dark void. Rather, they boast a bizarre, slushy blend of denser ingredients packed with churning methane, water, and ammonia that crystallize into frigid layers suspended high in their skies. That slushy interior is the fundamental difference separating them from their gassy neighbors. Yet, even with their shared affinity for monstrous weather, our little corner of the Milky Way hardly holds the monopoly on these colossal wonders. Look beyond our sun, and the galaxy is absolutely teeming with alien gas titans, ranging from worlds suffocated by thick ammonia smog to bizarre, crystal-clear spheres completely stripped of any weather at all. Take the incredibly dramatic hot Jupiters, a radical class of exoplanets, completely rewriting everything we thought we knew about stellar physics. These oversized roasters have parked themselves dangerously close to their host stars. Worlds like Kelt 9b and Kepler 7b are practically skimming the solar surface, whipping through an entire calendar year in a frantic 18 hours. Astronomers even stumbled upon a baby version of these infernos recently, a planetary infant dubbed HIPP 67522b that has barely existed for a few million years. While that might sound incredibly ancient to a human, it is essentially a newborn in the grand cosmic timeline, especially considering our own pale moon is a staggering 4.5 billion years old. Finding a toddler planet so close to the flames is completely flipping the script. Almost all of these scorching heavyweights have been baking for well over 1 billion years, leaving astrophysicists scratching their heads over how this young upstart managed to mature at such breakneck speeds. The real puzzle, though, is how these massive worlds managed to park right on the edge of a fiery furnace to begin with. The debate is fierce. Some experts argue they miraculously coalesced right in the danger zone, despite the blistering heat. Others suspect they are cosmic nomads that wandered in from the freezing outer fringes, perhaps starting as frozen rogue worlds that got fatally snagged by stellar gravity and dragged into a permanent, sweltering orbit. This migration might have unfolded while the young star was still swaddled in its dusty nursery, or perhaps much later in its lifespan. But astronomers will need to hunt for far more data to crack the case. Then you have the true galactic misfits. And no, I am not talking about myself. Enter the bizarre realm of gas dwarfs, often affectionately referred to as mini-Neptunes. Picture a bite-sized gas giant, hiding a solid rocky pebble at its heart, wrapped tightly under a suffocating blanket of helium and hydrogen. They earned their quirky nickname because they beautifully mimic our distant blue neighbor on a much smaller scale, sharing an astonishing number of physical quirks while measuring anywhere from 2 to 4 times the width of Earth. Typically, these enigmatic spheres sport obnoxiously thick atmospheres, dominated by familiar primordial gases, with tantalizing hints of buried ice sheets, subterranean rock formations, or perhaps even vast, hidden liquid oceans sloshing away in the dark. If one of these bizarre worlds happened to shed its thick gaseous coat, we would literally classify it as a limitless water world. Right now, they remain total enigmas, proudly breaking every rule in the astrophysics handbook. Much like their sweltering stellar cousins, these pint-sized anomalies are practically begging us to point our best telescopes their way and uncover their deeply guarded secrets. Picture a silent, icebound realm. Forged 4.5 billion years ago in the dark chill of space, this ancient sphere sits far beyond the sun's warming embrace, wrapped entirely in a massive frozen shell. It is tinier than Earth's lunar companion, yet edges out Pluto in size. Meet Europa,
the sixth cosmic dancer orbiting Jupiter and an absolute giant among the moons of our galactic neighborhood. What is truly mind-blowing about this distant rock, however, is that it could be hiding aliens. In fact, stargazers rank Europa as perhaps the greatest candidate in our entire cosmic backyard for discovering biological miracles. Why? Because churning beneath its surface lies a colossal, salty sea plunging 40 to 100 miles deep. Sure, that aquatic world is locked beneath a formidable frozen crust stretching 10 to 20 miles thick. Even so, it possesses all the right ingredients to nurture living organisms. Experts suspect that massive geysers violently burst through fractures in this glacial armor, blasting deep sea water straight into the cosmic void. Naturally, sending a probe to drill through miles of ice to hunt for organisms sounds like an absolute nightmare. But here is the silver lining. Researchers have stumbled upon clues pointing towards subterranean lakes resting right near the crust's exterior. We are talking about liquid pockets trapped less than a single mile down. This revelation brings a spectacular double victory. For one, it radically skyrockets the chances that biological entities are swimming around up there. Plus, if these hidden lakes exist, upcoming exploratory spacecraft will have a profoundly simpler time hunting for them. Fascinatingly enough, we only learned about these near-surface water pockets through an incredible fluke. The lead investigator behind the study, Riley Kohlberg, was casually watching a slide deck put together by a peer, an expert in planetary geology. A particular snapshot featuring parallel glacial scars on Europa's crust flashed on screen, triggering Kohlberg's memory of identical terrain right here on our home planet. Though you would struggle to find these twin-peaked grooves frequently on Earth, Jupiter's icy companion is absolutely covered in them. Subsequent investigations proposed that these cosmic scars likely form through a rhythmic geological mechanism mirroring terrestrial behavior. During this ongoing process, trapped liquid expands into solid ice and melts again under immense glacial pressure. That constant heaving forcefully thrusts the crust upward in repeating bursts, carving out those distinct dual-crested mountains. At least, that is the exact blueprint of how it works down here. Assuming the physics match up out in orbit, those ridges are giant neon signs pointing to near-surface water reservoirs. Granted, the extreme cold, intense gravitational squeezing, and bizarre chemical makeup out there throw a wrench into things, leaving experts guessing about the precise mechanics of extraterrestrial glaciers. Consequently, mapping the exact dimensions of these hidden aquatic bubbles, or calculating their freeze-thaw schedules, remains a massive puzzle. Yet one thing seems incredibly certain. These subterranean havens offer a perfect shield against the devastating radioactive storms that Jupiter constantly hurls at its moon. Naturally, that heavy-duty shielding exponentially magnifies the probability of organisms surviving out there. But let us pivot for a second. Remember how we mentioned this alien ocean is loaded with salt? Those mesmerizing crimson veins slicing across the lunar crust likely get their vibrant tint from a very specific chemical cocktail. We are looking at a deeply chilled blend of brine and minerals. What makes this truly bizarre is that this exact mineral profile does not exist anywhere in our own world. Meanwhile, those curious golden patches dotting the landscape are almost certainly the result of sodium chloride. Yep, that is the exact same seasoning you sprinkle on your French fries. Desperate to crack the code, researchers simulated European climates inside a controlled facility. By subjecting basic brine to mind-numbing cold and crushing physical force, they successfully birthed an entirely novel crystalline structure. This bizarre compound could be paving both the deepest trenches of the moon's seabed and its desolate, frosty exterior. However, beyond these tantalizing clues, the scientific community is largely flying blind. We are keeping our fingers crossed for massive breakthroughs near the year 2030. That is the targeted arrival date for NASA's highly anticipated Europa Clipper, an exploratory vessel designed to plunge deep into Jovian territory. By executing multiple daring swoops past the icy sphere, it aims to definitively determine if biological wonders are hiding in the dark. Meanwhile, the European Space Agency's JWST initiative, short for Jupiter Icy Moons Explorer, is also gearing up to swing by this captivating world within a few short years. Do not think for a second that Europa holds a monopoly on the extraterrestrial lottery, though. Back in 2003, the Mars Express, a pioneering orbital probe deployed by European astrophysicists, detected traces of methane swirling through the Martian skies. Down here on Earth, the vast majority of that specific gas is pumped out by biological organisms. Think of a herd of cows simply digesting their afternoon meal. Experts originally calculated that this vapor had lingered steadily above the Crimson Dunes for roughly 300 years. Yet inexplicably, by 2006, those atmospheric readings dropped to near zero. The dissipation occurred a staggering 600 times quicker than any computational model could predict. This leaves us with a haunting puzzle. What exactly produced that vapor? And how did it magically evaporate? Adding to the suspense is the tantalizing theory of dormant microorganisms buried deep beneath the dusty Martian crust. Tucked away underground, these tiny survivors could have easily evaded lethal cosmic rays for countless millennia. To put this wild hypothesis to the test, astrobiologists recreated the hostile red planet environment right inside their laboratories. They were absolutely floored to witness tough bacterial strains enduring those brutal extremes for an equivalent of 280 million years. Consequently, if biological entities ever called that dusty world home, their fossilized or even slumbering remains are likely waiting for us just a quick drill into the dirt away. Granted, the total lack of liquid rivers up there today means unprotected spores would shrivel up instantly. Add in the fact that surface temperatures mimic the freezing bite of solid carbon dioxide, making the entire exterior an unforgiving, deep frozen wasteland. Despite all that, researchers suspect up to 6 distinct varieties of extremophile fungi and germs might still be clinging to life below ground. The prime suspect among these rugged survivors has even earned the epic moniker Conan the Bacterium for its sheer indestructibility. Only time will reveal if it is truly waiting for us in the dark. Let us pivot our telescopes toward Venus for a moment. During 2020, astronomers dropped a massive bombshell regarding the planet's wildly poisonous cloud cover. They detected a mysterious